Let's talk about fishing. Fishing is one of those things that it takes patience, it takes time. However, some people will say that fishing is a patient man's sport, and others will say fishing is not about being patient, but it's about looking at different. Ultimately, patience comes in just because it takes some time to get there and to catch that fish. It's not always that you just drop a line in and you catch the fish right away. It actually rarely ever happens, and typically when it does happen, it's very possibly going to be your only fish for the day. So let's talk about some fishing. My son Jack and I love to fish, and he actually loves to fish more than I do. I've been fishing since I was little, back in New Jersey on a creek about a mile away from my house, and my friends and I used to go over there, and we used to go fishing all the time, and we would catch tons and tons of bluegills, lots and lots of bluegills. In fact, I always dreamed of catching a big bass. Now, for me, a bass was always the quintessential fish. If you like this video, if you like other videos that I do, please like and subscribe. And in this video, I want to talk about fishing, and I want to give you different spots, Silicon Valley fishing. Sometimes it seems like not a lot of people really know the good spots to go. I'll give you a couple here. I'm probably going to keep a couple to myself as well, just because it's not just me. It's every other fisherman that actually goes there also. And those waterways, when they get clogged up, it's a tough one. But here's the deal. I will give them all to you. But when you're going fishing, make sure a couple different things. One, make sure you clean up any trash you see while you're there. You do your best to clean it up. Because sometimes, unfortunately, people just don't pay attention to our environment, even when they're out fishing, for crying out loud. Something that I never would have thought before, until I really got into fishing and have gone to all these different fishing spots. If I'm fishing, Jack's favorite fish to catch is trout. This trout season's been tough because of all the rain that we've had, and I actually always thought the opposite. However, it's been very difficult because of all the rain. The rain comes in, makes the water very murky. When the water gets murky and muddy, it makes it more difficult for the fish to breathe. It's like dirty air for us. So trout season's been tough, and we're actually headed into bass season right now. This trout season, we only got a few times, and when we did get out, all the trout were not biting. So Jack, he's a young man, and he is not exactly the most patient person, but I swear to you, and I'm partially only tongue-in-cheek here, literally almost catch a fish in a puddle. It's pretty amazing. In fact, our creek in the backyard did flood, and not enough to come to the house, thankfully. And a couple of years ago, he was actually catching fish literally in a puddle back there. So I guess he can, but I digress. When you're fishing, there's different ways to fish. Some people like to bait, and some people like to use lures. For me personally, I enjoy to use lures. Jack is much more on the lure side. In fact, he teaches me a lot about fishing. There's no question about that. He's a much better fisherman than I am and than I've ever been. But for Jack, lures, and if he has to, he'll bait and wait. For me, I'd rather just kind of walk away than bait and wait. Ultimately, baiting and waiting is a fun way to fish. If you're gonna have a barbecue while you're fishing, that's a great way to go. Barbecue or a picnic, bait and wait. Put some bait on the hook, drop it out there, wait for the fish to take it, and once the fish takes you, bring him in. A lure fishing is a little different because there's lots of different types of lures. So when you're a lure fisherman, there's a lot more strategy involved. Bait and wait a little bit, you want to find the right spot. Lures, much more strategy because you want to find the right spot, you want to find the right bait, you want to find the right fish. Lots of different ways. How do you do the line? How do you set the line? What type of line do you set up for the fish? So let me go from that into what type of fishing license there is. If in California, it's very simple to get a fishing license. If you're a resident, it's like $55 for the year. And if you're not a resident, it's $146, I think, for a week or for 2 weeks, something of that nature. And so I will put the link below. It's not terribly expensive. Make sure you do get a license because if you get fined without a license, it's like $500. So it's not cheap. Now, we're currently going into bass season. So the bass are warm water fish. The bass like to come to the shallower water when it's warm. And the trout are actually colder water fish. There are specific areas for trout. And so we do enjoy trout, and we do also enjoy bass. Currently going to bass. So what I'm going to talk about is bass and trout fishing areas. First, what I would do is go over to the Santa Cruz area, and that's going to be Loch Lomond. Loch Lomond is a fantastic lake. Loch Lomond is absolutely gorgeous. It's in an area, once you get there, you're kind of like, oh, this looks like more of a neighborhood, and then you go through the gates of Loch Lomond, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Small area, and the hike, if you just go to their hike, absolutely gorgeous. And so Loch Lomond's certainly going to be one of the places to go to. And Jack, of course, has caught plenty of trout there, and we've caught plenty of bass there as well. So lots and lots of fun. That's Loch Lomond. The next one I would talk about would be McAlpine. McAlpine is privately owned. It does cost $30 per person to go there. It is a smaller lake but they do stock it quite frequently. And so when they stock it, it makes it much easier to catch fish. It definitely makes you want to kick rocks on the way out if you don't catch anything. So that's McAlpine. So Loch Lomond's in the Santa Cruz area. McAlpine is actually in the Gilroy area, a little further than Gilroy down. Those are 2 spots to go to. Another place is going to be Coyote Lake. Coyote Lake is a giant lake in Gilroy, and Coyote Lake is a fantastic place to go. Mostly bass and sunfish and fish of that nature. Then I would talk about the Coyote Creeks. The Coyote Creeks are actually one of our favorite places to go. You have to get to know the area a little bit, and there's some specific things to use in that area, but Coyote Creeks is certainly another place to go. There's also Calero. Calero is a reservoir, Morgan Hill, San Jose area, and that's Calero. Calero is a fantastic place to go as well. Smaller reservoir, great place to go, fun place to go bass fishing, and you can also do carp fishing there as well. So bass and carp fishing over at Calero. And carp fishing are really a fish that you can catch just about anywhere, but they are kind of tricky to catch, especially if you want to use a lure. So from there, I would actually jump all the way up to Cupertino. And in Cupertino, there is the Stevens Creek Dam. If you know me, and I lived in Cupertino in that area for a long time. So if you know me in Stevens Creek Dam, you know that I've never actually pulled a fish out of Stevens Creek Dam. But here's the thing. The thing with Stevens Creek Dam is that it's a very nice place to go to. We've also gone bike riding there plenty of times. So all these places that I'm going to talk about are all wonderful places to go and beautiful parks. So from Stevens Creek Dam, then I would jump over to the East Bay. And first I would go to Del Valle. Now Del Valle is currently closed, I think, until maybe next month. But Del Valle is a beautiful, absolutely gorgeous lake, and that's Del Valle. It's over in the East Bay. Take a look at Del Valle. Again, in a lot of these places, you can also equestrian as well. But Del Valle is a beautiful place to go, and lots of fish, lots of fishermen will line up there, especially for trout season. So Del Valle is actually in Livermore, and going to Del Valle is quite a drive. It's absolutely gorgeous. You drive through a lot of the Livermore vineyards, and then you drive up a long road and you get to Del Valle. Lots of bikers up there as well. Bicyclists really love the Del Valle area. Wonderful place to go mountain biking also. These places are just absolutely incredible. And so that's Del Valle. So from Del Valle, I would jump over to the Quarry Lakes, and the Quarry Lakes are in Fremont. Quarry Lakes, again, wonderful hike, beautiful place to go, and the Quarry Lakes are absolutely gorgeous. So that's the Quarry Lakes, and trout fishing and bass fishing as well. And mostly with the East Bay, many times we're actually looking more for the trout than we are for the bass. So from the Quarry Lakes, I would go over to Los Vaqueros. Los Vaqueros is also in Livermore, but it's Livermore Brentwood. One of the things with Los Vaqueros is you have to watch out for the wind. Lots of wind over in Los Vaqueros. And so you have to go at the right times for Los Vaqueros. We call it Los Volks, but Los Vaqueros, you can many times catch fish there as well. And again, wonderful place to hike, wonderful place to bike as well. Beautiful place, Los Vaqueros, and that's in Livermore, Brentwood area. And then from Los Vaqueros, Los Volks, then I would go over to Temescal. Temescal is in Oakland. And believe me, sometimes we've actually made these trips to 2 or 3 of these lakes in a day on a Saturday, and it can get kind of tiring, but sometimes you want to chase that fish if things aren't happening in one place. And so Temescal and Lake Chabot. Temescal is a beautiful little place, and the lake itself I think maybe takes about maybe 3/4 of a mile to a mile to walk around. And so absolutely just, you can see from one side to the other, absolutely wonderful little lake, Temescal, and very nice to go to. It was actually in the Fremont area as well. Lake Chabot, again, is another beautiful place, and it's a reservoir. And one thing that I actually did not mention, a lot of times we don't really fish for catfish, but catfish are great fish to fish for as well. And we've actually fished for catfish in Washington, D.C. when we were there. And that was actually really nice. Jesse actually caught a 3-pound catfish when we're in Washington, D.C. Now, one of the things that comes up also is what type of gear do you use? What type of gear? What type of rods? What types of reels? In the world of fishing, you really kind of start at one place and you end up at the other. And when we first started getting into fishing, one of the things we would do is we go to Walmart and we would get the ugly sticks. For me as a kid, I remember the ugly stick kind of being the best fishing pole out there. Now, as you could probably imagine, a much longer time later, there's a lot of different types of fishing poles and lots of different types of reels that you can use as well. For me, honest to God, I had never had any idea about all the different things that were out there. And now there are so many different options. But really what you want to do is you want to start off with a pretty simplistic setup to be able to just get the line out there and get the line in the water in order to start fishing. That's the whole fun of it, is to get out there, not spend too much time worrying about it. Once you start catching the fish, then you can start to worry about what's the next best thing. The rod and the reel, for me, what I've learned to use is the different types of rods and reels. If you just go pretty simple, if you're looking for bass, many times you can find a medium lightweight, and a medium lightweight bass rod is going to give you a good action. It's a good feel for the fish. So part of it is that when you're catching the fish and reeling the fish in, you want that fish, you want to feel that fight. And so it's a lot of fun. And bass fishermen, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll just yank it. And if you watch like Bass Pro and things like that, they'll yank that line and you see the rod just bend down and that fish just hammers on it. And bass are great fish to fight because they're a lot of fun and they fight hard. Trout fight hard as well. However, personally, I prefer the bass. Jack is more of a trout guy, but you want to have medium lightweight. That tends to be what I use and what Jack likes to use as well. And as far as the type of line, usually between 4 and 6 pound test is the max that you want to go. And many times we're using between 2 and 3, maybe up to 4 pound test. And there's lots of different types of lines as well. If you have the specific questions about things like that, let me know. I'm happy to interpret for you with Jack, because he's gonna be the one that I ask basically. So, but when it comes to all the different types of setups and all those different things, there's so many different ways to go. Go ahead and YouTube it. Some of the YouTube fishermen are really great to watch. There's also a lot of other YouTube personalities that are just lots of fun to watch, and they give you lots of different lessons as you go through it. So if you just YouTube it, look for fishing, you're going to find plenty of resources. But those different places that I gave you in the lineup, those are the typical places that we go to. Those are the places that we'll kind of go and frequent on a Saturday or on a Sunday after church. If you have any questions about this or anything else, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here and happy to help. And also, if you have any ideas for videos, please let me know. I'm always happy to interact. I'm always happy to do some research and get it out to you as well. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Talk to you soon.